What's up, everybody? Today we got the S83W deck van on the lift. But as you might have guessed from the title, my CV boot is shot. It looks like that. There's a gaping hole in it all the way around. So that's not good. So we're gonna go ahead and get right into replacing that. I already did the other side. Might as well do the inner and outer while you're at it, because these trucks are 25 years old when they come from Japan. They're probably gonna be dry rotted. If they're not leaking, they will eventually. So to get this thing started, our tools. First of all, you're gonna need your CV boots. I got mine from atvpc.com, ATV Parts Connection. They have the ones made for an S83 and a couple other Hijets. A couple other K trucks, and they're specifically sized. They come with the grease and the clamps and everything. It's a pretty good price too. Let's get right into it. I'm gonna skip this part. I assume if you're trying to do your CV boots, you know how to take your wheel off. All right, first thing out there, we got the wheel off. We're gonna take the cotter pin off of the axle nut. Next up is the axle nut, 32 millimeter. If you got somebody to hold the brakes, you can probably get it loose with a breaker bar. Good luck if you don't have an impact. Don't forget the washer. It should be okay. It's moving. Before we forget, I'm also going to take off this brake line bracket, 10 millimeter up here, just to give us more slack on the brake line. And then we're going to take our 17 millimeter. Before I let this flop, I'm going to put my floor jack underneath it just to keep it from pulling the brake line. Now I'm gonna go around back here and undo that bolt on the lower ball joint. Comes out pretty easy, I found, from the other side. And here's where you might need some kinetic persuasion. That bolt out. It's a little bit different, so yeah, keep them separate. And actually, it's a good thing I put the bolt back in here. So now to get the lower ball joint to come out, you just tap the lower control arm down. Really doesn't need that much. Now we can slide this strut bolt out and swing this well. Still not out all the way. So as we're pulling this out, I'm going to give this a couple taps on the axle. At this point, you can just wiggle the CV out, maybe. Mine's covered in grease, I can't really get a grip on it. I'm going to get a wooden dowel just to tap it. If you don't have a dowel, you can carefully pry on the CV. Just try not to scratch the actual shaft. Can you guys see now? Oh man. Well, now that you're blinded, and our CV is loose, so we got to get it out from the differential, and that's where the pry bar comes in. There's a not a snap ring, it's like an expansion ring on the inside that will squeeze and come out, so it's not anything that you have to take apart or dismantle to get to. Finding something to pry against is the challenge, though. I should need a smaller pry bar. Oh, look at that, smaller pry bar. There we go. This should just slide out. It might have some grease on it, but you're not going to lose all your differential fluid. It's not, yeah, it won't pour out. Don't worry about it. All right, I put some cardboard down on my workbench because it's going to get greasy from prior experience. It wouldn't be a bad idea. So we pry these up with a flathead carefully. Don't stab yourself. You're going to have to get it all the way. Get this piece up. And then you got slack to either just pull it off or cut it off. They're surprisingly hard to cut, but they do fatigue easily, so if you need to cut it, just keep twisting it back and forth and they'll break. So at this point, I'm just going to cut the boot. I think it's easier just to get the grease out of the way. Right, so you could take the boots off just by disassembling it, but you have to really get in there to get to the clips. This is the inner, this is the outer. The inner is the larger of the two. The outer is very difficult to take apart. There is a snap ring or whatever, locking ring inside here all the way in, and to get it out you have to just whack this with a hammer, throw it in a vise and hit it really hard. I don't like that idea. I tried doing it on the other side and it didn't budge, so I don't really want to break anything that I can't replace. So we're going to assemble it from this end. So don't forget to put the right boot on this side like I did. Inside the CV cup is a ring, like an internal snap ring. So you got to find it past all the grease. Is it not in there? Sick. I'm missing the ring on this side. I'm gonna have to find one. It's always something, right? So inside here, in this land, is supposed to be a ring. I'm completely missing it on this side. It's not ideal. Alright, well once your imaginary ring is out with the pick or a flathead or whatever, you're going to scoop out some more grease. And in the end of this, there's a snap ring. Take that out. And then just slides right off. Don't forget when you put it back together that the deeper seat faces out. That's pretty much flush. That side's deeper. Now those rings can come out. That's garbage. Get some grease off of this thing. So this side, because we're not taking it completely apart, you just want to take out as much of the old grease as possible, just for any contaminants that got in there, especially because my boot was ripped. These boots are different sizes on the Hijet. The larger one goes on the outer boot. You can tell because when you place this in here, it's got play. That's no good. It's got to be a tight fit. So the larger boot, larger of the larger openings goes on the outer. So you're gonna want to put that on first. Don't slide it all the way down because we still got to fill it with grease. Generally, you're not going to fit all of this in there. You're going to get most of it, but since we didn't take it all out, you're not going to get it all back in. Do a happy little mountain of grease in here. And then we're going to kind of press it in. And then we're going to take a bunch of it and stick it in the boot. Like piping a cupcake. Just don't taste it. Okay. Slide the boot up. Get it to pop over carefully. And what I like to do before I slide this boot down, because it's going to have some trapped air which is going to fight you, get something that's not going to rip your boot to burp it. I don't know if you heard that, but it let out a little bit of air. So now we can slide this down to where it's supposed to seat. right there. There's a indentation here, the same as over here. Go ahead and put these clamps on this one first, so it doesn't start oozing on us. And these are adjustable, but since this is the bigger one, we go all the way to the end, the largest size. Give that a squeeze. That ain't going anywhere. This is the ring that holds it in the differential, so it just takes a little bit of force to push it back in place also. There we go. Alright, all done. CV boots looking much better than before. We got the one-piece CV boots now, and we're all set.